So, Mike, I'm very curious because I think that this is one of the things that is going to be a big issue of discussion on this episode. How?
Yes, I hate the...
Yo, what the fuck?
Just outing me right now. Gosh.
No, I was going to ask you because I think that this is a thing that is for people that are, film fanatics or film critics like you and I are. What do you think of Adrien Brody?
Oh boy.
That's the real question here. I mean, he's a guy who is polarizing. And so, that's why I want to lead off with before we even talk about the movie is, what do you think of Adrien Brody?
Well, what was that movie we watched? Was it Bullet? The one with Mickey Rourke? I think I talked a lot on that episode about
That's right.
my distaste of Adrien Brody. So that should tell you right there which side of the camp I'm on. I'm not a big Adrien Brody fan. Never have been. I think the first time I really remember seeing him was in Summer of Sam. I don't know if it's that him I dislike or if it's the movies he's in that I dislike, because he's usually in a lot of those Anderson films, Wes Anderson films.
He's a Wes Anderson guy, yep.
Yeah, not a big Wes Anderson guy either, so you can keep him. And then, that stunt that he pulled with Halle Berry a few years back on the Oscars, I wasn't a big fan of that either.
She got hers, though.
Yeah, I guess so. But then his fucking Oscar speech was so freaking long. I'm like, oh my God, dude, just get off the fucking stage. Anyway, I'm not a big fan, but I can't say I respect his work because most of it is garbage in my opinion, but sorry.
Wow.
I mean, no, I really hated Summer of Sam, and he was just like, he was this awful punk who was like listening to The Who and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? But anyway, not that I dislike The Who. I definitely like them way better than Adrien Brody.
That's fair.
Yeah. But I mean, I do try to always separate the art from the artist, and I can appreciate what he was doing here. I've never seen The Pianist. It almost feels like this might be a spiritual sequel to that with all of the World War II and the internment camps, concentration camps and stuff, because it took a lot for me to even realize that he was in a concentration camp, because I don't know if they necessarily make that explicit. There's a lot of implicit stuff in this film.
Yeah. So on this episode of the Kulturecast, as Mike already alluded to, we're going to be talking about The Brutalist. I am your host, Chris Stachiw. I am joined by my good friend Mike White from the projection booth.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. He says, have some.
Yeah.
And we are talking about a film that is relatively recent. It came out last year. It won an Oscar for Adrien Brody, like Mike already alluded to, but it's a film that I really resonated with the times I watched it last month. And so I knew, because of your feelings towards Adrien Brody, that you were probably not going to watch this movie unless somebody asked you to watch it for a reason. And so I wanted to watch this movie. I felt like this movie has some interesting things going on that I think we will have an interesting discussion about. And on this episode of the Kulturecast, we are going to be talking about 2024's 3.5-hour long Oscar-nominated, Oscar-winning for Adrien Brody, Brady Corbet directed The Brutalist.
Welcome to America.
Don't miss The Brutalist. It's an amazing and engrossing epic, starring Adrien Brody, Felicity Jones, and Guy Pearce. An electrifying cinematic experience.
Fate brought us together.
And now, the winner of 3 Golden Globes, including Best Picture and Best Actor. The Brutalist.
So the film is directed by Brady Corbet, written by Brady Corbet and Mona Fastwald, stars Adrien Brody as László Tóth, a Bauhaus-trained Jewish-Hungarian Holocaust survivor who comes to the United States in search of the American dream. And boy, does that not go well from like day one. The ominous specter of the upside-down Statue of Liberty is as ominous as it gets, and boy, I am excited to talk about this movie. I hope we can have a good discussion about it, even if you're not a fan of Adrien Brody, which I knew ahead of time was the case, obviously. I just wanted you to talk about it openly at the beginning of this episode because, again, this is an Adrien Brody movie, so,
yeah,
for good or for bad in a lot of ways, obviously.
I mean, I've been able to put it aside. I mean, we on my own podcast, we've covered Splice, and I definitely like the movie Predators. So there are a lot of things that he's been in where I can tolerate him, if not actually like him. But yeah, there's just, and of course he's in Poker Face, and I think he's coming back this season. So I'm excited for that.
So Mike, what did you think of The Brutalist? I am so curious.
So it's funny that you said that I probably never would have watched this movie. And I probably would not have, except that I had a conversation with former co-host of the Projection Booth, Rob St. Mary, and he was doing a lot of comparisons between The Brutalist and Megalopolis. And I am fascinated by the film Megalopolis. I'm hoping to do an episode on that later this summer because it is one of the most glorious disasters I've ever seen in my life. And the whole movie is about an architect and how rarely he actually seems to do any freaking work. He just seems to talk about a lot of stuff a lot. But it was interesting to compare Megalopolis to The Brutalist. And The Brutalist, I have to say, it's a rare movie where I can watch it and feel like I'm watching an adaptation of a book that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
There are movies, the movie Hannah is always the one that comes to mind when I talk about that, where it feels like there's so much more in the world around the story. And of course, this one kind of being set in, the real world, even though there is no László Tóth, there is no, I can't remember, Franklin Van Buren or whatever the Guy Pearce.
Yep.
Yeah. These are
Harrison Lee Van Buren.
Thank you. There are all of these tropes that we're playing with and pulling in some real bits of history and kind of tossing those around. And it just feels like there's so much more to this movie that I would love to have read the book that it's not based on. It just feels like there's just a huge story here and we get a glimpse of it. And there are times where I'm like, no, I want to know more about that. But I know that they're purposefully leaving certain things vague. And I think they're doing that to generate some conversation, but also to generate some thoughts and to just leave some things vague and to not have to spell everything out for us. I've talked before about how I don't like movies that hit you over the head with things. Sometimes there are things in this movie where I'm like, ooh, I'd like to explore that a little bit more. It's like, the new business terminology, like, can I double click on that and just see a little bit more of that? Can I get a little bit more of the incest between the kids? I really want to know if that's actually happening or if I'm just picking up these vibes.
I'm so glad you mentioned the adaptation of a book that doesn't exist, because that is what this movie feels like. It is, look, I don't like historical epics. I actually detest them, frankly. They're not my kind of thing. However, here we are talking about a historical epic on the month that I programmed for myself. So, what the fuck? To quote Lewis Black. I think for me, the thing that I resonate with this movie is a couple things. As the son of a first-generation American whose father came to this country from Ukraine after World War II, who was in an internment camp, while I am not Hungarian nor Jewish, and Brady Corbet in multiple interviews has said that the Jewishness of the movie is not the intent, it's just like you said, some of the things are just there for conversation, and some of it is just there because the Jewishness of the movie is just part of it. He's said that he's not necessarily trying to say anything about Israel or Judaism specifically, but more that's an easy thing to use as a reference point because it's post-World War II, right? Which is an interesting thing for the director of the film to say because, yes, the movie is very explicitly Jewish.
Oh, yeah.
But yet...
And it's shot through with the idea of Israel and who belongs where and how do you feel as an outsider, and is a whole country of outsiders, does that make someone feel like they are an insider?
But again, the United States of America at this time, in a lot of ways, is still a country of outsiders. And that's the thing. Like, it's an immigrant story. Yes, it's a Jewish immigrant story, but it's broadly an immigrant story. You take the Jewishness out of it. And again, my family came to this country at a similar time that László Tóth's family came to this country, at a similar time Adrien Brody's family came to this country. That's the reason he resonates so much with this role. Honest to God, and I will tell you this, watching Adrien Brody in this role, I can't tell you that there's an actor there. This feels like one of those things that I'm like, this is not a performance. This is a fully realized and lived in thing. Like this in my mind, again, to your point about Adrien Brody, he seems like one of those dudes that he's super self-serious. And you know what? okay, like there need to be actors like that in the world. I'm not sure I'd want to hang out with the guy. However, this is one of those things where I look at the role and I'm like, I'm having a hard time divorcing the man from the role. It almost feels like part and parcel. This, like you said with the pianist, this almost feels like the role Adrien Brody has been waiting his entire career to play. And I feel like he could retire after this movie and do nothing else, and he would have there would be nothing else for him to say as an actor. Do you know what I mean? Like, this movie in my mind feels like it spans the gamut of, again, like, you and I do a Sopranos podcast that is soon to be released. And in a lot of ways, this role feels like James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano. Like, he has nothing left to say as an actor, Adrien Brody, in my opinion, with this role. And same with James Gandolfini in The Sopranos. Like, what else is there to say with that role? Like, you've made an impact with one singular role. And like, again, like, maybe I'm being hyperbolic, but like, something about what Adrien Brody is doing in this movie feels, again, to your point, like it's trying to have a conversation about the immigrant experience. And yes, there is a Jewish aspect to it, but I do think it really is about, at this time in our country right now, the immigrant experience has become something that is a really hard conversation to have.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie's having a conversation that is important to have, which is the American dream is not a success for a lot of people, then or now. The fact that the Statue of Liberty is upside down the moment we see it is a foreboding omen for things to come in this movie. And man, what a piece of imagery that, like, again, like, I've never seen before.
Yeah, such a simple shot, but it just really hangs over the entire film. I mean, that they used it as the poster image is very telling. And just the way that, the credits are set up, with the way that things are slanted and skewed. They're not straight on, and just the care used to make this movie, to employ things that we haven't had in films for a while. I mean, I know that there have been films, even probably in the last 10 years, that have had an overture or a intermission.
Intermission, yeah.
But, it feels like this is a huge presentation. It feels like this is the reason. And I know this was shot in VistaVision, and I know that is not 70 millimeter, but it feels like this is the reason why you show a film in 70 millimeter. This is the reason why you still have movie projectors, not for something that is primarily set indoors and could have been shot on 16 mil with something like The Hateful Eight. It's like, this is a movie that deserves to be seen on the big screen. This is a epic film.
I completely agree. I mean, I wish I could have seen this film in theaters, like dead serious, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, this is a movie that, every shot feels intentional. And that is in this day and age, that's insane.
Yeah.
In the day and age of Brave New World, where you can count on one hand the amount of seconds between shots.
Mm-hmm.
The opening of this movie, the steerage, like the steerage shot is one of the great steady cam shot ever of all time. It's up there with Goodfellas. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And it really brings you that claustrophobia, because you have that, and then you get to see, boom, the Statue of Liberty. And, as the opening credits are going, you're pretty much in the bus, but you're following the bus with the camera, and you're seeing the road, and you're seeing that huge landscape. And it just is, I think you thought I was saying that A Country of Outsiders is America, but really I was talking about Israel as a country of outsiders.
Well, both technically are.
Yeah, exactly. But one is brand new at this point, and the other one's been around for over 100 years. And really, they are not welcoming to the outsiders at all when it comes to this.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, I can't wait to talk about that relationship.
Well, and that's the other thing, I think, just when we, to go back to that opening scene of the movie where we have this one shot of Adrien Brody walking through the steerage of the ship, and we have the narration with Felicity Jones talking about, I'm alive, and I can't wait to hear for you. But we don't realize that he doesn't know about this. This note is being read by somebody else, or it's being narrated by her. He does not know that this is what's going on. He thinks that she is dead. But
until he sees Attila, that he knows that she's alive.
Yeah. I really, 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 really love the opening shot of this movie. I really do. Like I said,
talking about the shot with the niece or the actual.
I guess it's like the steerage shot.
Steadicam?
Yeah,
Okay,
Steadicam steerage shot.
Yeah,
Like,
because it is interesting that she's the bookmark or bookends of this film.
Well, and that's the other thing. The end of the movie is, the end of the movie and the beginning of the movie being that wraparound. Like, I think in my mind, like, that is the key to deciphering the meaning of the movie. Is kind of like, what is the movie opening with and what is the movie closing with? And ultimately, I don't know, for me, the big takeaway, the message of the movie is that, sometimes no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, no matter the lengths to which you go to try and be successful or take action or do the right thing, the bad things happen. And sometimes bad things happen all the way down to the point where not a damn good thing ever really happened. And you have to give up on, again, the American dream in this movie is the villain of the film.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the concept, right? Like, the concept of the American dream is the villain of this film, because you come to this country looking for acceptance and success and freedom, and Adrien Brody's character finds very little of that, if anything. He finds immigrants who have rejected their homeland completely, with the Alessandro Nivola character, who, to your point, like, he's now like Attila Miller, like, Miller and Sons.
Yeah, living on a lie, but it,
but it's not a lie. It is, but it isn't, but it is, right? Like, you don't blame him.
No,
that's the thing. Like, in this movie, the only real villain in the movie is Guy Pearce. Like, like, physical, tangible, like, him and his son are the villains, tangible villains. But it is the American dream that is the genuine villain of the movie. Because at the end of the day, Adrien Brody comes to this country. He could go anywhere else to chase the American dream, to be successful. And by the end of the movie, they literally have to leave America.
Yeah, and I want to say that Attila has also converted, right? His wife is Catholic. I think he's converted to Catholicism. Yeah, and he has to give up who he is in order to have his slice of the American dream.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. In the entirety of the movie, the question that the movie keeps asking, and again, it's not explicit, I think it's implicit. I mean, so much of what I enjoy about this movie is what the movie doesn't say. What the movie lets you as the audience is the American dream even worth it? To what lengths would you go to obtain the American dream, and how much of yourself are you willing to lose in that pursuit? Because, again, there are people that would look at someone like Attila Miller and say, you're not a good example of what it means to come to this country as an immigrant. But at the same time, other people would say he is a perfect example of what it means to come to this country and be an immigrant, to integrate and assimilate into American culture. Again, the movie doesn't take a stand either way, which is what I appreciate, because it doesn't bash you over the head with what it's trying to say. It kind of leaves a fair amount of wiggle room as an audience member to actually have an interesting conversation about what the movie's kind of driving at overall.
Yeah, there's one part that I feel is a little too on the nose, and it's really a shame, because there's a scene that comes before that is much more subtle and tells the exact same story for me. So should I just say what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
For me, it's the rape scene of Adrien Brody by Guy Pearce. It's way too on the nose. I mean, the capitalist raping the immigrant and just proving that he has power over this immigrant and denigrating him through the entire rape. That's one thing. The dropped penny is the subtle version of it. I don't think you needed the rape. I think the dropped penny was just fine.
Yeah, I am off put by the rape. That's the intention.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, this movie is not afraid to go places, like the whole hand job scene by Felicity Jones. It's like, okay, yeah, like we are showing frank adult stuff here. That's absolutely fine. And yeah, it's funny because it's like, well, am I being too prim and proper by saying we didn't need the rape scene? Not really. I just think that, like, I kind of got the point before that happened. But I mean, at the same time, where it happens in the movie, showing basically the rape of the land, the rape of Italy, like taking all that marble out of that quarry and everything, and just to see how that has changed the landscape literally. And, this whole thing is for Guy Pearce to, basically show off, like, look what I can do. I can go and I can get this beautiful marble, and I'm taking my lackey with me, because he treats him like a lapdog through so much of this film. And that whole thing of why Guy Pearce even wants László to be around. I mean, when the first time we meet Guy Pearce, he comes in and just screaming at László and Attila, and just, what are these two pieces of shit doing? And my son was so wrong to hire these idiots and blah, 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 blah. It's not until all the right people talk about how beautiful his library is, and then he does the investigation and finds out, oh, he went to this prestigious school. So now if I can be a patron of the arts and basically hire this guy and control his life, then look at me and how great of a patron I am and how great of a person I am, because I am getting all of this art built. And it's just such a, it really questions, like, what is the motivation of a patron of the arts? Like, most of the time I would think it's very selfless. But with this, it's very much like, oh, I'm doing the right thing in order to increase my stature and increase, like, the articles being written about me and making myself look good by giving this guy a job.
Well, I also really, and this is another angle and another direction of conversation to go in. I love the idea that this guy is so fucking inept, he couldn't create a finger painting if he tried. And so there's also part of it where he's like, by raping Adrien Brody, is he taking some of his creative power away? No, he doesn't. Well, he's attempting, but he doesn't. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's not how creativity works. You can't take someone else's creativity away. Like, and that's, like, it goes back to something like Amadeus, right? Like Salieri and Mozart. Like, Salieri was talented, but he was no fucking Mozart. And there's nothing he was ever going to be able to do to become Mozart. Harrison Lee Van Buren has no artistic ability whatsoever. And no matter how hard he tries, even if he sits in, again, to your point, to the movie's point, trying to, steal it from Adrien Brody, he can't. That's not how this works. You can't take someone else's creativity away by force. It's not even something to give. That's, like you said, to be a patron of the arts. Like, what does that even mean? There doesn't seem to be in this movie is making the case that there is no such thing as a true patron of the arts, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Not altruistically anyways.
Yeah. To your point, it's very much the Jeffrey Jones. What was his name? The guy who was all into kiddie porn and stuff.
Yeah, Jeffrey Jones. Yeah.
Jeffrey Jones. Yeah, it's the Jeffrey Jones of it all, where he's the king or the emperor, I should say, of Austria. And just like, this is great, Mozart. But too many notes. Like, has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Yeah, too many notes, as if Mozart's supposed to understand what that is. So, and the way that with the courtroom and stuff, luckily there is no courtroom here, but there are some similar things as far as pitting people against each other. And like, how does the son play into this? And was he actually doing a good thing at the beginning? Because he treats László like absolute dog shit as well.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the idea of treating someone like garbage unless you see the value in what they do is also a part of this movie's, discussion, right? I mean, that's another discussion that this movie's having is, if you don't see the value in if you don't understand the value of someone, why treat them with respect, I guess is what the movie is saying. And it's like, well, because you should, but in this movie's kind of world and rationale, that's not a thing. Like, in this movie, no one treats anyone with any sort of respect or kindness unless they can get something out of them. And again, that's a corruption of the American dream, the quid pro quo of it all, as it were. Like, what can I get out of you? What can you do for me? Nothing. Yeah. Nothing is free in this world, and that is made abundantly clear in this movie.
Well, it's like his wife. Like, he's trying to get his wife back. They know that she's alive. They know where she's at. He can send letters to her. And, one of the first things we see is him when he's in Pennsylvania, taking that long bus ride to Temple, because there's probably not very many Jewish people in this part of Pennsylvania. He's not in Philadelphia. He's somewhere out in the boonies, where Miller and Sons can survive as a furniture store, and has to take that long trip. And he's talking to the rabbi at the end, and he's just like, yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard to get these people repatriated. Who is it that can actually do it? It's one of Van Buren's friends, who's just like, oh yeah, no, I can totally help out with that. And then he actually comes through with it. But again, it's probably all what you know, or all who you know, not what you know.
Well, and that's, again, the idea of Guy Pearce's character not initially and not having any respect for Adrien Brody's character. But then once he does the research and figures it out, it's like, oh, okay. It's like, why didn't you just do that to begin with? Why did you have to act like a fucking asshole to begin with? And again, it's the idea of, I guess, the American rejection of the immigrant as, a lesser, or as an intruder, or as someone who takes away from a national, or a natural born citizen is having their stuff taken away by immigrants, is something that's so strange to me. But yet this movie again reinforces that that's a thing that people think even now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this movie is insanely prescient, obviously.
Oh God. Yeah.
Right. Like, again, it's not unintentional that what this movie is doing. Like, the scene between Guy Pearce and Adrien Brody where they're sitting in the study talking to one another is the heart of this movie. It is the entire theme of this movie, is what this movie is getting at. The idea of, again, nobody does anything for free. Nobody does anything out of the kindness of their heart. And Adrien Brody knows that even what he is doing in terms of the architecture, he's doing it with the hope and intent that in the long run, it will be used for things and reasons that he can't even begin to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And he's perfectly okay, at least it seems to me, with whatever the message of the things that he has created being viewed through the lens of other people, because that ends up being kind of the final theme of the movie, which is, what the intent of the person seems to not matter at the end of the day when other people have taken it and start, and not reinterpreting it, but reviewing it through a lens of their own personal beliefs.
I have a question about that as far as the end of the film and the way that the niece is up there talking about her uncle's designs. And it feels like she's talking about the thing that he built for Guy Pearce, for Van Buren. And with that, of course, there's this huge Christian part of it. There's the cross on the top. There's the way the cross shows down on the floor. And he's just making this big deal. And it's all for Guy Pearce's mother, which is also an interesting thing. The whole mother-son relationship. I don't think we ever see her, but he definitely is very torn up about his mother dying and all that. When the niece is talking about that building, is she talking about that building as far as the reason for the high ceilings?
I think so.
And that basically he built that building more as an homage to the prison camps and the small cells in the prison camps with the high ceilings.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's her interpretation of it anyways. That's the thing. Like, again, in my mind, that's the thing. It's like, that's her interpretation. And he doesn't get to speak for himself at the end of the movie. So that's as true. Far as the audience is concerned, what we're left with at the end of the movie is someone else telling us what they perceive to be the reason Adrien Brody did what he did and built what he built. Because, by the way, we never hear him say that that's what the fuck is the intent of the building. We are hearing her say that at the end of the movie as, well, that was the intention. Okay, I guess we have to assume that that's the case because we are going along with what the movie is saying, but we never hear Adrien Brody say it has anything to do with the concentration camp that he was in. Never. Once in the movie does he say that.
Well, is that because Sofia has the voice at that point? Like, she is voiceless at the beginning, but we know that she reads the letters, or she might even write the letters that her aunt sends. Like, there is a part where they talk about how she's reading these letters. And it's almost like, is this Sofia's story? Is this her interpretation of everything?
I believe so.
Okay.
Well, I guess I guess the question is, does it matter?
I mean, it doesn't ultimately matter, but it just feels like if you were to take, because there's no real POV. I mean, there are a lot of POV shots in this movie. I would consider all of these travel shots that we have, the bus shot that I mentioned earlier when they're going to the Van Buren estate. It's very much it feels like a first person POV from the truck. And I'm just like, all right, who is the one that gets granted the POV? Who gets granted voiceovers? I mean, most of the time that's Erzsébet gets the voiceovers.
Right.
So it's interesting in that way too, as far as who is in control of this narrative. And I'm always fascinated by that, because it feels more like some of these characters are controlling this, and obviously they were the creations of the director and the writer, but it feels like they're the ones in control of the story sometimes. And it feels like at the end, Sofia is the one that she literally has control of the narrative at the end when she's giving that speech.
And what do you think the intention of Brady Corbet is to have Rafia Cassidy playing all three versions of the character, including the daughter of Zofia? Because that's her playing her daughter and the younger version of her.
Right. For the longest time, I thought it was Daniel Radcliffe in drag.
The only person that's being played by a different person is the adult version of her.
Right. Yeah, because it's even the older or old makeup version of him at the end, of Adrien Brody at the end.
Yeah, which is not great, old man. They don't.
No.
Thank God they didn't linger on it very long.
No, and I do have to say, it was funny while I was watching this, and we get to see, I think Guy Pearce is aged up in this movie. And I was just like, oh, well, this is a much more subtle performance of age than that horrible thing that you had to do in Prometheus.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Mike White, Prometheus hater.
Yeah.
It's okay.
What, talking of the son of Van Buren's son, what do you make of that character?
That's the Donald Trump character, right?
It very much feels like the Donald Trump character.
Okay, I'm just making sure, because it's like it feels a little on. Again, we talked about the rape being a little on the nose. He's a little on the nose, right, as a character.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm
he
okay
almost
with
feels like Philip Seymour Hoffman's character from Incredible Mr. Ripley.
Okay.
Yeah, just that kind of smug asshole type of guy.
And then at the end of the movie, he can't even fathom that the way his father is, so he rejects the reality completely.
Mm-hmm. Which is something that happens in this movie quite a bit. I mean, going back to Attila, that whole thing of you made a pass on my wife, and I'm like, so again,
what's your read on that?
It feels like he's just throwing her into his arms. It feels like he wants to be RFK Jr., and just watch from the corner and jack off. It's just like, that's what he's just like, oh yeah, take my wife. Yeah, dance with my wife. And then it's, the next day, you tried to make a pass on my wife. And I'm like, who is throwing her into Adrien Brody's arms around here, But it just feels like such an excuse, like, maybe things went too far. And also, I don't think the wife necessarily likes him that much. So I'm like, okay, we're just going to use this as an excuse to get rid of László.
I feel like she looks at him as a dirty immigrant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The first thing she talks about is like, oh, we can get your nose fixed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that because he, damaged it? Because he talks about running into a tree. Or is that let's get you an American nose and not that big old Jewish honker you got on?
All right, László Tóth.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't change his name to Larry Tillman.
Larry Miller. Yeah.
So I'm curious, because again, we kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the episode, but now I want to ask you about it directly. What do you think of Adrien Brody specifically in this movie and his performance? Because we haven't really spoken about it specifically. I
mean, other than his Hungarian, which was atrocious. I'm just kidding.
The AI of it all, huh?
Oh yeah. Which I could not hear AI being used in this, and
it's really it's really good AI. So.
Oh yeah, and I totally agree with who was it that came out afterwards, and was it Cronenberg who was just like, man, whoever started that whole thing just was actively campaigning against The Brutalist to win Best Picture.
Yeah, I don't understand. Who fucking cares? They used AI in a way that makes sense. Boo-hoo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the rest of this movie's almost a low budget movie compared to the rest of the horse shit that was at the Oscars and other places.
Almost a low budget movie. It's a $9.5 million movie that looks like a $50 million movie.
Yeah, you look at Megalopolis again, $220 million I think spent on that, and this 10. You could have 22 Megalopolises out of this thing. Come on,
this movie is beautiful. This is beautiful,
It looks
richly.
so good.
I know. It's like, again, like the thing about this movie for me is like, yes, it's 3.5 hours long, but I'm not going to lie to you. This movie reminds me of Goodfellas. Like, I watched this movie twice in one day and it kind of flew by both times. Like, it's a challenging movie in a way that movies aren't anymore. It's challenging because, again, like, and same with Goodfellas and, other movies that, again, allow the audience to have a little bit of wiggle room for you to kind of interpret it as you will. The movie doesn't, like you said, beat you over the head with the idea of like the corruption of the American dream. Because again, that's what Goodfellas is about. Goodfellas is about the corruption of the American dream. What happens when people don't have genuine interests and concern in mind when it comes to the American dream and all they want to do is look out for themselves? Because again, once again, we have someone looking out singularly for themselves and no one else. Harrison Lee Van Buren is a good example of a rich piece of shit. Like, who cares only about himself? That story that he tells Adrien Brody in that scene about how he's like, why, fuck these people, and I fucking screwed them over financially, and haha. Like, it's like,
oh, yeah.
Whoa, man. Like,
yeah.
And he's proud of it.
You mentioned Donald Trump, and there you go.
But what I love is that the movie doesn't beat you over the head even then with the Donald Trump of it all.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
right?
Yeah.
It's not like we have a character who shows up who's orange with blonde hair that's thinning and he's talking like this. There's none of that. It's an evocation of a certain American dream ideal that does not play well with the reality anymore.
Oh yeah. I mean, this was of course shortly after like the whole idea of like the oil barons and this type of tycoon and that type of tycoon, but they were still around, obviously, right. And there are so many people that are making bank because of what happened with the war. I mean, that was the time to be a profiteer and just, okay, invest a little over here, a little over here. Maybe I'm investing with the Germans, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, okay. I'll just use this to parlay my fortunes into bigger and bigger fortunes. I talked recently about the movie Being There and how it was shot at the Biltmore estate. And it's like, oh, okay, there's, what was it? Andrew Carnegie's like summer home or something. And it's just like, God, the like looking at the house where they're making the library or putting up the library, it's just like, yeah, this thing is immense. There's no reason why people need a house this big.
Well, unless you're being ostentatious.
Oh yeah, completely. That's why you've got that huge stained glass roof.
Right.
The dome.
The dome of stained glass, which is so ostentatious. My God.
The one character I really wanted to know more about throughout the entire movie, going back to the whole, this feels like a book, I really would have liked to have known a lot more about the, what's his name, Gordon character.
The African-American character?
Yeah, Gordon and his son, because we get to see his son. You're talking about how the Zsofia is played by the same person, all but the very end of it, and then she plays the daughter. Well, you've got, why am I blanking on the actor's name that plays Gordon? Oh, Isaac de Bencole, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this guy, he's fascinating to look at. Handsome man. But then he's got the accent. And I'm just like, okay, what's his story? Where is he from? Because he is obviously another immigrant as well. And I would love to hear more about him. And just it feels like he and Adrien Brody are having the best time of it, just shooting smack like crazy.
Yeah. Boy, aren't they?
Yeah.
I also love the idea of the immigrant to this country embracing the marginalized group of this country that this country at the time was rejecting, and him not having any issue with it. We see that scene early on where he's standing in line and he's like, what the fuck? This guy has a kid and he needs food. Like,
right.
And it's like, well, in the reality of the world that's going on here, like this African-American gentleman is going to have to be fighting for his ability to exist in this country to begin with, let alone having to provide for his son during, economic strife. And yet Adrien Brody just embraces him wholeheartedly without even like a question.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love when he's like, you guys go home, I'll stay here. First he's like, I'll be the first one in the morning. And then it sounds like he's like, no, you know what? I'm just going to stay here. I'll like fucking sleep here in order to get you guys food tomorrow.
And you can sense that the Gordon character has never been given any sort of anything by anyone that way. And it's like, and here is this immigrant who is embracing this guy the way that people of this country will not and have not.
Oh, yeah. And then that he's the face that Van Buren sees, that great shot. You don't even see the car, I don't think, at first. You just see the lights hitting Gordon in the face when he's trying to pick up all that stained glass. And then, you know, the way he holds up his hand and everything is squinting. And then when Van Buren comes in, he's just like, who is this Negro man out there? And like, just, you know, that's one of the first things out of his mouth.
Oh, well, and again, like he tries to walk that scene back the entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he is trying to walk back to the audience that he is not, in fact, a racist, bigoted, rapist piece of shit. But yet that is exactly what he is. From the moment we see him, he outs himself. And like we've said before about this patron of the arts thing, it's almost like he's trying to cover up the fact that he's this rapist piece of shit by, you know, oh, I'm so well in tune with the world culturally, and I understand I understand the plight of the artist and blah, blah. It's like, no, you don't. You literally, again, I do agree with you that the rape scene is just too on the nose. But at the same time, like, I kind of think
it fits with his character.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, if any movie can do it, this movie kind of gets to the point where it's like, what else could he do at this point? Literally rape Adrien Brody's character. Like, I guess it's the logical next step for a character that's been taking advantage of him every other way up until this point anyways.
And it feels, the rape of it, I mean, it feels like there's a lot of shit going on in the Van Buren household. Like, I was not joking around when I was talking about the incest between the brother and sister. That feels like a very real thing to me. Like, there are a couple shots where I'm just like, oh, they're fucking. And then I don't know what's going on with, you know, the father and those two. And then also the son, there's one part where he goes up to Zsofia while she's sitting on the bank of this river, and she's in, like, it looks like swimming gear. And they cut away from that. Next thing you see is both of them coming up. I'm just like, I'm pretty sure he raped her. I just have this feeling that he raped her, and it never comes out. I mean, there is the other rape, and that gets addressed by Erzsébet when she comes in and is just like accusing him. By the way, am I to imply, because she can use a walker in that scene, that the heroin helped cure her osteoporosis?
I don't know.
Okay. I was just
her osteoporosis, I think, just got cured by getting better nutrition. I kind of assumed was I don't know.
Hope so.
Yeah.
She's a fascinating character.
Oh, I really have not liked Felicity Jones in anything I'd ever seen her in up until this point, but she's great. Again, like you said before with the whole, like, this is an adaptation of a book that doesn't exist. The literary, like, nature of all these characters, like you said, there's just like, it's a testament to Brady Corbet and the other writer, Mona Fastvold, that they can craft these characters that seem so real. Like, this seems like a biopic, right? Of a real person that just doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
And that's
you're expecting
wild.
Like opinion pieces, or like, you know, oh, the real Attila speaks out. I never said that my cousin was going to rape my wife or anything.
Right.
You know?
But what's
yeah, it does. I mean, this feels like the relationship, like, you know, I'm sorry to keep going back to like the robber barons and just like the, you know, the self-made millionaires of like the 19th century into the 20th century. This feels so much like that. Who was it? Was it JP Morgan, or was it, was it Pierpont? Oh, I can't remember who it was that was the patron of Nikola Tesla. And it's just like, I mean, talk about a failure, right? That he had all the money and everything, but yet Thomas Edison still beats Nikola Tesla to everything. I guess probably because he had his hand in the patent department and everything. But just like that whole thing of like, oh, I'm the rich American guy, and I'm going to take this, stupid immigrant under my wing and just basically fuck him over.
And don't you love that the movie is also willing to make the statement that no matter how much money you have, it can't make up for actual artistic ability?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's such I'm not going to lie. Like, what an artist thing to do. Right? Like, of course. But like, at the end of the day, like, fuck it. Who cares? Like, if anybody's going to say something like that, it better be somebody who's an actor and a writer and a director. Like, again, I trust Brady Corbet. I trust him explicitly as a director. Like, his ability to, I don't know, again, like, craft a story that for the architecture that is the theme of the movie is crafted in such a similar way that it's like so well crafted that it's like this film is everything is intentional. Everything is intentional. And that is a hard thing to see in this day and age where so many things just again seem like just throw shit at the wall and see what happens. Like this movie doesn't do that. Every single scene is made with intent, which is again how they were able to make this movie look so good on a $9.5 million budget because they had to make sure they knew exactly what they were doing every time they turned that camera on. Like, yeah, it's not a question.
Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, Megalopolis budget was only 120 to 136 million. So they could only make, 12 Brutalists. Ironically, the box office for Megalopolis was 14.3 million. So just one Brutalist could be made with the profits.
My God. This movie is such a good film compared to Megalopolis. Megalopolis is not a good movie, right?
No. It's a fascinating movie to me. It's, we talked about it a little bit when we talked about Joker 2, where it's like, that was the more interesting of the two car crashes that I saw over the summer. And that one is like the car crash I want to go back and see about, doing some sort of forensic investigation of it to see how exactly did this become what it became, because it's one of those like it's not going to be ever hailed as like a Heaven's Gate or something, but it's up there as far as just like, wow, what a singular vision by a director, and I don't think it was successful at all.
And this is that singular vision by a director that is successful.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's amazing to know just how little this costs, but how great it looks. And just, the salaries of the actors feel like they would have just blown that budget right apart.
Well, again, I mean, to go back to the Adrien Brody of it all, if you watch interviews with him talking about this movie, he's like, I would have done this fucking movie for free, is kind of what it sounds like. And look, to his credit, wins an Oscar for it. And I think it's well deserved. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Does this, again, we as film critics sit here and reject the Oscars, I think, broadly, because they don't fucking mean anything. But yet I will ask you, does this feel well deserved?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's a good thing that whoever gave him that fake beard didn't win an Oscar, because that's pretty atrocious. But the rest of the time, I am right there with Adrien Brody through this whole thing. And yeah, he like you said, he disappears in this role. It doesn't feel like this is Adrien Brody as László Tóth. It feels like this is László Tóth.
And look, looking at the other things that were nominated, Timothée Chalamet is Bob Dylan. You have Coleman Domingo from Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes from Conclave, and Sebastian Stan playing Donald Trump, of all fucking things. The only other person that could have theoretically won was Timothée Chalamet, and I'm glad they didn't give it to him because I'm sick and fucking tired of biopics. It's not that impressive for you to play a real person. Jesus fucking Christ. It's much more impressive to watch Adrien Brody convincingly play a fake person real. To your point, László Tóth's not a real person, but yet it feels like he is.
Oh yeah, just those little mannerisms, like his whole thing with his lighter. He's got that Zippo lighter through the whole thing, which he uses for cigarettes, but then also for cooking up his heroin. And he always does that little like flick of the lighter. And I'm like, I don't know if that's Adrien Brody or if that's László Tóth. It feels like that's László Tóth and how he uses this lighter.
I agree. It's, it's just, I think the best performances elevate movies in a direction that, again, like the best performances are the ones that the movie can't live without. And Adrien Brody, like, his performance is so great in this movie that this movie, again, it is really a masterclass in acting from everybody involved, from Adrien Brody to Felicity Jones to Guy Pearce. Like, everybody involved in this movie is operating at 100%, but Adrien Brody is really what you come to this movie for. And again, like you've mentioned, like, he's kind of a polarizing guy, but by the end of this movie, I'm like, he might be a polarizing actor, but he's a fucking hell of an actor.
He's not the reason why I really came to it. The reasons being the Megalopolis thing, like I was saying. But also, I didn't know that Guy Pearce was in this. And once I found out he was, I was like, oh, well, sign me up. Because I've been a Guy Pearce stan since Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Like, I haven't seen anything pre that, but I've seen a hell of a lot post that. some real shitty stuff too, but I'm there for it because he's always an interesting actor.
The Time Machine?
I saw it. Me and my boy Orlando Jones in there.
I
Yeah.
was about to say, I saw that movie in theaters.
But I mean, God, best thing for me always goes back to LA Confidential. But then his role in Memento, and I know he doesn't like his role that he did in Memento, and I think he said like, "Oh, this is why Chris Nolan won't work with me anymore." I'm like, I don't know. I thought you did a really damn good job. I mean, I just made a Sammy Jemkus reference today.
I have never seen Memento.
Oh, really? That might be the only. Well, I take it back. The Nolan, 2 of the 3 Batman films I really like, but for me, Memento is the one of his non-superhero films that I really can get behind. I think that and The Prestige are my favorites of his because you can really keep the rest of them.
Interstellar, Murph.
Oh,
I'm good.
yeah. I'm never need to see that again.
I like Guy Pearce a lot. To your point, people's mileage is going to vary with Alien and Prometheus and all that. And I have a very different opinion than you do on those movies, but that's fine. I think he, neither here nor there in terms of his performance in those movies, but he's great here. And I think he's great in pretty much everything I've seen him in. And I would almost, to your point, like go out of my way to watch a movie if he's in it because he's a great actor. And yeah, I going into this movie hadn't really seen Adrien Brody in a lot of things, but now I will probably go out of my way to watch a movie if he's in it because he kind of nails this movie and this performance in a way that, I mean, again, he's uniquely suited because he has the familial connection. He has the real life connection to this character. But just because that's the case doesn't mean he's going to nail it. Like I said, he could stop acting right now. And I think you could make the case that he would never need to act again to be considered like one of the great actors. Like, again, he might be a prickly human being. I would think in my mind, he's comparative to someone like a Marlon Brando. And I'm not talking about his abilities and skill, like that's kind of subjective. I'm talking more about just like how much of a fucking weird dude he seemingly is and how serious he takes himself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, can you blame him given how good he is in this movie? Like, I'm not sure he's wrong. I mean, he's a consummate artist, which is like a Daniel Day-Lewis thing. Like, all right, bro, you're not exactly the most fun person to be around. Okay.
How long ago was it that he won for The Pianist? Because that
20 years ago.
Jesus. So yeah, this guy 20 years ago wins an Oscar for Best Actor.
Excuse me. 22 years ago.
22 years ago. So probably half his age, if not a little bit more. I'm not sure what he's racking these days. Though he doesn't look like he's really aged much over the years. He's very well preserved.
You want to guess how old he is?
53.
Off by a year. He's 50.
Wow. So yeah. So he's what? 30 when he wins that Oscar?
29. He's the youngest winner at the time.
Wow. So yeah, no wonder he's a weird dude because you get that thrown on you when you're 29 years old.
Yeah.
It's gonna warp your perception of things.
He was in the fucking Village after he was in The Pianist, man.
Yeah, which might be a role of his that I actually liked. So
2 words, King Kong.
Oh yeah,
I actually want to rewatch that King Kong movie.
I've seen it recently, and it still doesn't work for me yet. So
that's too bad. I want to watch it only because like it's Peter Jackson and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, to your point, man, if I look that good when I'm 52 the way Adrien Brody does now, good for him.
Oh yeah, and you get to see like he's there shirtless when the prostitute's trying to give him a hand job. And that's the other thing too with Attila. It's like I don't think Adrien Brody's going to be like, dude, I didn't make a pass at your wife because I'm having a hard time even getting it up these days. Right. It isn't until Felicity Jones comes in and gives me a handy that it's like, okay, now I can finally have sex in a way. I would consider a hand job sex, but it's like, okay, cool. I can finally come.
I would, yeah, within reason.
Yeah.
Apparently, Adrien Brody played Harry Houdini in a History Channel miniseries.
Really?
Yeah. That's weird. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of people it's weird that are in this movie, Jonathan Hyde, friend of the Kulturecast, Jonathan Hyde, the Mummy's own Jonathan Hyde.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Where was he at?
He was the builder.
Okay.
That butts heads with Adrien Brody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was an interesting guy. I didn't recognize him with those glasses and everything.
Yeah.
He
Well,
looked a lot older than he actually is, I think.
Looks a lot less like an Egyptologist.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah. And yeah, no, he was great. And yeah, I like him really trying to, I mean, it's surprising that they got that thing built at all, because really, like, between that very friendly architect who wants to cut corners here and there, and then you've got the actual builder who also wants to cut corners everywhere, and it's just like, oh no, concrete's so ugly, we don't want to use that. But it's like, hey guys, that's brutalism right there.
Yeah.
And that's, I was watching a review of the film today. I watched a bunch of like video essays out on YouTube just to see what other people had to say and if I was missing any sort of symbolism and stuff. Again, like talking about fire and all these things, and he's kind of the modern Prometheus. But anyway, one of the reviews was like, well, I really like the first half of the movie. The second half of the movie kind of drags for me. And I'm like, gosh, I if anything, it was the opposite for me. But I think I like both parts equally. But I love the whole idea of the building and just like, all right, let's, it's like we finally have a project, because the first half of it kind of meanders as far as him going from job to job to job. He finally gets the job. And then the second half for me is very much, okay, now let's do the job. And just seeing something being built, and of course, all the struggles around that. I mean, that's my life every single day, is like the struggle to get things built. And it's like, okay, here's this guy with this huge project, and everybody is working against him, doesn't want to give him the money, doesn't want to give him the materials, doesn't want to follow the specs, cutting down on the ceiling height, cut down on this. And it's just like so frustrating, but at least you're getting to see things getting done. So I really chimed with that second half of the film.
I'm with you. As much as I enjoy the first part of the movie, I like the second part more. I think it's more interesting. I think there's more interesting questions and conversations that are being had in the second half of the movie than there are in the first half. That's for sure. I'm glad we watched this movie. I really am.
Oh yeah, same here. I'm really glad you talked me into coming on this episode.
Yeah, and again, like, what's surprising for me is the fact that this movie came out last year, and then, like, I resonate with it so much, which is not really the case, because a lot of the stuff we're watching this month, at least a lot of the other things I picked, are like things that I've liked for a long time. Like, this is a fairly recent addition, but I've seen this movie like 4 or 5 times now at this point. Like, that's a lot, because this movie is 3.5 hours long.
Well, it will be interesting to see how this plays out, but I have a feeling that this will probably be in like the pantheon at some point, like
I think it
probably
already
is for some people, but I'm saying like in 40, 50 years, when they talk about movies from the earlier part of the 21st century, I have a feeling like a lot of people will be like, oh, have you seen The Brutalist? Like, that's one you should definitely check out. It feels like there are a few of those movies that come and go throughout these last 25 years. I was thinking this morning about the film Inherent Vice, which I'm not sure if I really like it very much, but it definitely made an impression. And it's probably one that I can see other people, again, 40, 50 years from now being like, oh, you have to see that. Like, that is one of the better films from the early part of the 21st century.
Well, and I also think that this movie is going to end up being and you can already see it now, like, people are starting to use VistaVision again.
Yeah. Oh, which again
Wild.
Looks fantastic. Yes. And I really liked, there was I don't know how much I like Ryan Coogler as a director. Like, I've seen some of his stuff that I've really enjoyed. Other stuff I'm just like, whatever. But he's got that new movie Sinners, I think it is, out. And I watched this really nice thing where he was going through all of pretty much all the different film stocks as far as commercial projects go, like from 8 to Super 8 up to 16, Super 16. And he takes it all the way up to like 70. But he's talking about all of these different formats and all of the things that he shot Sinners in. And I was just like, this is so nice to see somebody who's taking such care to choose the right format for the right time and being able to really talk about why he likes these different formats. And it doesn't feel like that same film fetishism as like a Nolan or a Tarantino. It feels like, oh, there's actually a purpose behind this. And to hear him talk about the film, I could just hear the love. And I was also getting that a lot with the director of The Brutalist. When he was talking about VistaVision, I could just hear the love and respect in his voice. And I was like, oh, that's really nice to hear somebody who really takes care with the craft. I mean, And again, a 3.5 hour freaking movie with top talent that looks gorgeous the whole way through for $10 million is insane. To your point, he must have had everything planned out as to the, to the millimeter as far as like getting some of these shots.
How meta that is to be a movie called The Brutalist, huh?
Yes.
Well, and, something we haven't mentioned, but it's something that I was appreciating earlier today while I was working out. The soundtrack, the score for this.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me.
It's brutalist in and of itself. It's brutalist inspired. It's like minimalist in a weird way. It's jagged in all the ways that brutalism is. Like, I don't know. Everything about this movie is so well crafted with such obvious intent. That
reminds me, there were parts of this movie that I felt, if not the whole damn thing, really, when I think about it, listening to the score it put me on edge. It made me feel like, what was that Safdie Brothers film, Uncut Gems? Yeah, like the tightness that was in my chest while I was watching Uncut Gems, I was feeling a lot of that from this movie, and I was feeling it, I think, a lot from the music, because that music, there's some gorgeous parts. Like I love the theme, the da-da-da-da thing that they do. Wonderful. But then listening to even that first overture in the car today when I was driving, I was like, I can hear almost some Stravinsky, almost some Bartok in this. It's just some real discordant stuff going on.
Discordant tones.
Oh, man. And I honestly felt like through so much of this movie, I was watching a horror film. And I mean that in a really good way. That
the American Dream is the horror. I mean,
it's the horror film.
I mean, it is. I kind of think this movie is a horror film in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like,
and the score is what is your entry point to that, I think.
And here's the other fucking nutsoid thing. There are discordant tones in the score that make me, again, reinforce the idea of the corruption of the American dream, because you have this beautiful score within these like bizarre discordant tones throughout, and it's like the intent is to reinforce the idea of the corruption of the American dream, like the corruption of a beautiful thing, the thing that people have strived for and believed was a thing worth attempting to achieve, and yet here we are essentially being told like, nah, it's not real. Like, it is a false idea that does not actually exist.
Yeah, no matter how freaking talented you are, because I love the actual architecture that we're seeing designed in this film. And brutalist architecture, I mean, there is some real beauty inside of that truth that they have. And it also has made for some amazing things, because I know as far as I know, there's a lot of brutalist architecture in Mexico City. And that's where they were shooting a bunch of stuff for Total Recall, the Verhoeven film, and using that brutalist architecture to be like, this is the future. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. Like, it's that building in Gattaca where it's like, here's this amazing building. This is the future. And it's like, yeah, that's all you need to show me is one building and I'll believe that we're in the future.
Right.
I don't need to see a rocket ship, or, like George Jetson across the screen or anything. I know from that architecture that's the thing. And I mean, I know that some of the Brutalist was based on some real people, and I would love to start tracking these guys down and seeing what they did. Because I think one for sure model was a furniture designer, and that's where we get the furniture part, and with Miller and Sons and the display. And then another person was an architect, and so we get this. It's like the marrying of those two things for the László Tóth character, and I would love to see some of their work.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, I love that we actually get to see the architecture in the movie, and we get to see something that, again, I've never seen before. Like, that the water reclamation room underneath the building is so... Oh my God. I don't know what Brady Corbet is getting at with that. What is that meant to be? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's meant to be something. There's some intention with the way that it looks. And I mean, we see it a couple times. Like, I don't know, everything about this movie is just so intentional that and again, like, we talk about people like Kubrick, and we talk about Room 237, and it's like people searching for intent. And I'm not saying Kubrick did or didn't have intent. I think Kubrick had plenty of intent, but I also think there is some, like, people, jumping to fucking conclusions and looking for things that aren't there. I don't think with this movie you would have to look. I don't think there's anything that we've talked about that isn't actually in the movie, implicitly or explicitly. I feel pretty confident that everything we've talked about is actually, there was an intentional reason behind everything that we've talked about, that this was that well thought out. Like, that
is the thing. Yeah. Is it doesn't feel like anything in this is a mistake. It definitely feels like we know what we're talking about when it comes to this. I'm like, okay, I definitely feel like I'm in the hands of somebody very capable when I'm watching this movie. It's not like, oh, this came together by mistake, or there was a happy accident. There were probably plenty of happy accidents. Happy accidents happen all the time, especially on film sets, especially when you have talented people like you have. But nothing feels like, oh, that was just a throwaway thing. Like, oh, that thing that happened over here on the side, or this thing that happened to this character. Yeah, don't even worry about it. It's like, no, I'm sure everything is intentional.
Yeah, I think everything is intentional. And for me, again, it's very meta that the film is called The Brutalist when everything about the movie feels intentional, because brutalism is intentional, right? Like everything has a meaning and a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, you have a scene where a penny is thrown at Adrien Brody.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we have him being literally raped. So there you go. Like, maybe we didn't need to see it, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm glad Brady Corbet felt it necessary to show it, because it jibes with the rest of the movie.
It does,
but
yeah.
This is a rough movie to watch in a lot of ways. To your point, like, it is I don't know, maybe I'm not using the term correctly. I feel like I am. It's a postmodern horror movie in a lot of ways. Like, this is the idea of, how do we make a horror movie that's a horror movie, but it's not really a horror movie, but we have to acknowledge the fact that if you live in this country, we're living in a constant state of horror, because the American dream, as we've been sold it even now, is a fucking lie.
Oh, yeah. To see how the rights of people have crumbled over the last 100 days is just, you would think that there would have been safeguards in place that this could not happen. And I guess there are with the courts, but if you're going to ignore the courts, then do whatever you need to. Just go ahead and export people who haven't committed crimes, send them down to El Salvador, and good luck getting them back. Or, I'm not going to even talk trade with this country until they disavow like LGBTQ rights. It's amazing that all of this stuff can happen that quickly. And it's the same shit that László Tóth witnessed, a few years before this movie began.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, again, you never see what he dealt with in the concentration camps, but you don't have to.
No.
Because it informs literally everything else that happens in the movie. It informs the way he acts, the way he reacts, the way he handles himself, the way he carries himself, is all informed by the fact that he was somewhere that Guy Pearce's character could never even fucking fathom, any more than I or you could fathom. Again, my dad's dad was in a displaced persons camp in Germany, the largest displaced persons camp. My parents have been looking through stamps that my grandfather had from said displaced persons camp. It wasn't a concentration camp because they weren't killing the people, but it wasn't far off. It was the same fucking thing. People being held against their will. Displaced persons camp. I can never understand what that's like. I couldn't even begin. I live in the fucking Midwest in a fairly sheltered life, just like you do. We both do. We can't imagine what any of those things are like. And that's the thing that Guy Pearce's character at the end of the day can't fathom, is no amount of raping László Tóth is going to be worse than what he had to deal with in those concentration camps. Right? I mean, that's the reality. That is the literal reality of the movie, is that there's nothing you can do to László Tóth at this point that he already hasn't dealt with. And it is the determination of the human spirit at the end of the day that wills out. Because instead of giving up and giving up, they just decide to pick up and leave once again. Just like at the beginning of the movie, we see them coming to this country with, ease, hoping and praying that this is going to be the start of a new life. By the end of the movie, we're seeing what effectively could have been the beginning of this movie all over again, having to leave somewhere that he thought was going to be his home forever and isn't, because of things outside of his control.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when he really comes to the realization that he doesn't belong, or they don't belong, and it just breaks your heart. But I mean, yeah, they've proven it out time and time again that he is not accepted in that society.
No. And there's nothing he'll ever be able to do to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that stark realization by the end of the movie that you can't change the environment that you're in. You can only do what you can to adjust to it. And they go to Israel at the end of the movie. And then you have that great epilogue that again kind of puts a pin in, I think, the theme of the movie, which is at the end of the day, you are the author of your own story, and however you interpret it is up to you. And, she has that great line where she's like, it is the destination, not the journey. And, in a lot of ways, like that's counterintuitive to the statement as you've heard it every other way, every other time.
Especially, I found that line to be so ironic when she said it's the destination, not the journey, because this 3.5 hour movie is a journey. It's like, yeah, I started with you when the sun was out. The sun's now down. I've been with you for a while here. You've taken me through László Tóth's life, or at least a good chunk of it. And yeah, it has been the journey. It's not necessarily now this end scene, but I think that that's them telling us you should really be paying attention to this final scene, that it's not just a quick little epilogue. There's a lot of stuff just to unpack in that final scene.
Yeah. It in a lot of ways feels like the Rosetta Stone of the movie in its entirety.
Yeah.
And yeah, that honestly, like the epilogue of the movie there's a lot going on. I mean, again, we have the idea of what was the point of this entire movie. Was it for László Tóth to process his trauma and pain externally? Was it for him to create a building that other people would be able to do that with in the future? Was it him trying to prove to himself that he still has what it takes to do the thing that he was known for so long? Like, you can go down any number of those paths, and I don't think any one of those is incorrect. I think the movie gives you the opportunity and room to actually say, yeah, I think all those themes are present, which
right.
At the end of the day, a 3.5 hour movie, it's making best use of its fucking time. That's for sure.
Yeah, damn straight. Or, to go back to Zsófia and her whole thing, is this Zsófia's story? Is she the one that's telling this to us with her at the beginning and at the end?
It kind of feels like it, which is interesting in and of itself, because then it's the immigrant's recollection of an immigrant story as told to them by the immigrant, and now they're recollecting it to someone else. Or I guess to a room of people even? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, we don't hear her voice for a long time, but it's what I guess are the Nazis at the beginning are what we're hearing, or I guess, did they say, I think I might be getting their story mixed up with something I just heard on NPR recently, but as far as wherever they're at the beginning of this whole thing, because did they go to a Russian camp after? Because they're separated, right?
Right. I think
I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Like I think she and Erzsébet are in the same camp, separated from László, but now I just completely lost where I was going to go. Oh, but the first sounds that we hear are the guards, either Russian or maybe even Hungarian, but hearing them give her orders, and it's like, write this down. And it's just like, basically I think they're saying like, write your story.
Right.
So it's like, again, is this movie her, like you said, interpretation of what happened to her uncle?
I think it kind of is. I think it's an interpretation, and it's also, again, like one has to look at it as her again, like the idea that a lot of this movie is a synthesis of things that have happened. It's her synthesis of what she heard him say. Because at the end of the movie, it's the destination, not the journey. She claims that he said that. We never heard him say that.
No. Sure.
Which, again, awfully fucking convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I like the idea that László Tóth knows very early on that what he is doing and what he is providing to the world is going to be seen through the lens of whomever it is that is looking at it. And that extends directly to someone that he's related to. It's not just random people who look at his building and find meaning in it personally. His own family is like, nah, we're going to interpret it the way we want. It's like, wait, what? Like, hold on.
Yeah, I like that idea that she might be rewriting his story without his consent.
Well, it is the destination, not the journey.
Yeah.
Because again, at the end of the day, history is written by the victors. And at the end of the day, history is often about the outcome, less the journey of getting there. Most people don't care about the journey. They only care about the outcome. And I think that the journey is just as important as the outcome, but the movie is kind of being very cynical at the end and saying, fuck you, that's not the case, which I appreciate. I mean, this movie, I think, you mentioned it being kind of a horror movie. I think this movie is also darkly comedic. Like it's very, very mean spirited. Like, again, we have man rape in this movie. We have like possible incest. We have all kinds of like really terrible things. But the movie, again, like I feel like the movie's always winking at the audience. Like, we know, just like you do, how fucked up the American dream is. Like, we get it. Like, nobody is not keyed in here. And like that feels like, again, like, I don't know, Brady Corbet's intention. And hey, isn't it great that ultimately at the end of the day, the asshole rich American character isn't even played by an American actor?
He's so good. And yeah, his American accent is top notch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, those Australians.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I hear, is that they used to get so many American and British TV shows that's why Australians can do our accents better than we can sometimes.
Yeah, I believe it. They nail it in the way that it's almost like they do an American accent better than Americans do.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they're not just flattening everything out like a Hugh Laurie or a Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, nah, Chris Hemsworth does a very convincing American accent.
He does. Oh yeah, no, he sounds great. He's got a great Norse accent as well.
Get out of here. The music in and of itself, we could have an entire discussion just about the music.
Oh,
like it's.
Yeah. I would love to read some good scholarly articles about that in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, the music, the cinematography, like the framing of the shots, like the shot construction, like this movie is going to be talked about for a very long time. I think to your point, like, I think it has made the case that, and like, look, I'm glad that we're alive in a time and a place where like movies of substantial quality and long-term value are actually coming out. Like, that didn't feel like a thing for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I mean, it just felt like maybe once in a while somebody would throw us a bone, but it was like, yeah, it was just a lot of popcorn for a long time. And then occasionally like, oh, well, down the street, there's this other thing, but good luck finding it, But the Brutalist actually playing legit big theaters several times, like for a while, I seem to remember there was an opportunity to go see it. So didn't do it, but I probably should have.
A24, baby. Turning in good films.
Yeah.
Good for them. Yeah, I'm curious, Mike, final thoughts on The Brutalist.
Well, again, thank you for having me watch this, and it was really nice to be able to talk about it. I've been looking forward to that since I think I watched this Saturday, and I keep watching all those video essays and it just keeps rolling around in my head, and I think it probably will for a long time to come.
Yeah, I mentioned to you when I floated the idea of watching this movie that I watched it twice in one day, and it's a 3.5 hour movie, and most people aren't up for more than 16, 17 hours in a day. So that's half of your day if you sit and watch this movie twice. And look, it is definitely a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of subtext. There's a lot of explicit stuff going on. There's a lot of implicit stuff. There's a lot of stuff that the director is hinting at. There's a lot of stuff the director wants you to think about. And like we've alluded to already and said outright, movies like this aren't being made anymore, but they seem to be being made more frequently now than they used to be, at least for a long time. And that's a good thing. And that bodes well, I think, for big, important movies coming out that are being made for reasonable budgets by talented directors with immensely talented actors. And yeah, I'm glad that I didn't have to convince you very hard to watch this movie. And I'm glad you enjoyed it because, yeah, you mentioned the idea of like, well, this movie is kind of making a case for it being an important movie already, a year into its release. Like, this is already one of my favorite movies of all time, genuinely. Like, I enjoyed this movie immensely. And again, like, it hits notes for me that I didn't think I needed in a movie and didn't know I needed in them. And you know what? One of the things that really strikes me as rare about this movie is the Guy Pearce character dies off screen and the movie just chugs right along.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
It was interesting.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I appreciate that the movie is willing to allow the audience to go, I'll give you one line and you can assume what happened beyond that. I don't need to beat you over the head. And it's like, you know what? I appreciate that in this day and age, that a director is willing to trust the audience, because it doesn't feel like directors are doing that anymore.
No, it felt like, oh, you actually respect us, and that made me respect the director as much.
And the director assumes that I'm actually paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
So on that note, we'll take a break and play a preview for the final Kulturecast of April.
Randy had the world at his fingertips, but just when he had it all in control, things took a turn for the worse.
School called. When I get home, young man, I'm going to confiscate every model in the house.
3 men suspected of robbing a local convenience store are still at large tonight. Police warn that the 3 should be considered armed and dangerous.
I've never known anyone who got expelled before. My mom's threatening to confiscate every model in the house. So I'm taking him to the hideout until things cool down.
He was about to find out what real trouble was all about.
Wow, this is a real pretty house.
How long we gotta hole up here?
Till the cops give up on the roadblocks, 3-4 days maybe.
Now he's matching wits with 3 outlaws who are about to outwit themselves.
No!
Error by error.
It's like the sperm in the air for you guys.
Blunder by blunder.
Come quick, someone's coming! Don't worry, kid, we're not gonna hurt you. Oh, no, look, they got the army after us!
And blow by blow.
You gotta be pretty smart to get away from Louis, kid. Ah, Richie!
He's teaching the bad guys just how far a kid will go.
Ah!
Remote, a comedy powered by adventure.
So that's right. On the final Kulturecast of April, we're going to be taking a look at Remote, a Moonbeam Video Zone film from Full Moon, Charles Band. It's essentially Home Alone with remote-controlled airplanes and cars and a yodeling Hitler doll, which... Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to be joined by Disconnected's Ryan Verrill. Until then, where can people find you and the things that you work on, Mike White?
You're never going to believe this, Chris, but everything that I do is available over at weirdingwaymedia.com, where you can find all the stuff that I do, like the projection booth or the sadly over, but still all completely available, The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller podcast, the Kolchak tapes, also gone but not forgotten, and a whole bunch of other things, except for one thing, which Chris and I do over at our Patreons, patreon.com/projection booth and patreon.com/culturecast. And that is ranking on Bond, where once a month we take a look at one of the James Bond films in order and kind of work our way through the entire Bond catalog, and just took a little stop along the way to talk about some Austin Powers. So that was a lot of fun as well. So yeah, that's all that I have to say. How about you, Chris?
Same place. weirdingwaymedia.com is where you can go to find all the things that I work on. So head on over there if you want to watch or listen, given that Film Foundations technically is a viewable thing as well on YouTube. But yeah, that's where I would go. And like Mike mentioned, patreon.com if you want to engage financially, but like, rate, and review the show on iTunes, because that is where most people find podcasts. So that's where I would... I know. That's where I would advise you want to give the show a good review or a bad review or any review at all, do it on iTunes. So Mike, thank you so much for joining me. This was fun. I'm glad you resonated with the movie and enjoyed it. And it was something that, you appreciated, because, yeah, I never know. Not that I never know with you. I just never know, because sometimes I get excited about things and my excitement needs to be tempered. So.
No, it was well suited excitement, Chris, for sure.
And as always, we'll catch you on the next episode.